the top two performing written pieces of content on the internet are how-tos and listicles. You have all these followers, and that's great, but how does that turn into sales? This is how you're actually going to get sales. So for the most part, when you're doing anything expertise related, you want to stick to how-tos and listicles. So that could be mental models and frameworks. That can just be deep dive, how to write a viral thread, how to do this, how to stop having knee pain, how to get rid of your 20-pound gut because you're fat, something like that, right? That's going to be your expertise. And then listicles is pretty self-explanatory. It's listicle 1 through 10, 1 through 20, 15 ways, 16 this, 17 that. So that's expertise. So the S is going to be social proof. So this is really important. Depending on your niche, this can be more difficult or less difficult. But social proof is essentially your case studies, your testimonials, who you've helped, what you've done. It's basically how you prove your authority after getting all of these followers, right? Because a lot of times you see, and this is the problem that I see with a lot of personal brands. So whether this is you or a client, is they'll go viral. They'll get some, 10,000 likes on an expertise thread. They'll get 10,000 on a personal, but it's like, okay, you have all these followers and that's great, but how does that turn into sales? How does that turn into money? And that's where social proof comes in. This is the case study of how you got someone else from A to Z. Another caveat here, this could also be how you got from A to Z, because social proof can be yourself, especially if you're pre-product. Sometimes maybe some of you guys have seen a lot of people try to build their personal brand before they launch a product. So it's okay. How do you have social proof if you don't have the product yet? You haven't helped anyone. That's going to be yourself or your past social proof. So for me, let's just say I was teaching people how to create ghostwriting businesses. I'm not, but it would basically be how I built my ghostwriting business, right? That's my social proof. And if you're a new fitness coach, it'd be how I lost 150 pounds, how I fixed my knee pain, how I learned to jump 40 inches, get a 40-inch vertical. That can be like the how I. So that can be your social proof. But for the most part, you want it to be case studies, testimonials, people you've helped, and you want a lot of this as much as possible, actually. If you could do these weekly, do them weekly. This is how you're actually going to get sales from the growth. So T, really important. So this is trending. I find that a lot of beginners miss this one because they don't really understand how to take advantage. And this is really important right now. I'll just give you that hint because we're in the middle of a presidential election. Only happens once in 4 years. So trending is really how do you take advantage of trending topics and create threads around this. So this one requires a little bit of deeper thinking because a lot of people think, okay, I'm not going to write about Donald Trump for my fitness coach, or I'm not going to write about Joe Biden for my spirituality coach, but you don't have to. What this really means is taking advantage of the entire landscape of the internet and diving into something that way. So, for example, I'm really going to drop this. I just sent this into a swipe file for my team. I just sent this morning. You guys can look this up on the side. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., what the fuck his name is. He's on this whole like make America healthy again, right? And he just made this long form tweet about reintroducing beef tallow into French fries because in 1990 McDonald's stopped using beef tallow for French fries and they switched to seed oils and now everyone's fat. That's the gist of it. So now, how do I extrapolate that into something that I can write for a client? Okay, I have a fitness client. I can write a thread about why you should use beef tallow, and I can maybe reintroduce some of the RFK stuff. Elon Musk tweeted about that. Donald Trump's talked about it. I could start to introduce some of the trending topics and maybe about the general landscape of America right now and include that in the thread. So that's like an example of using something that's trending right now to then apply it to something unrelated, right? So trending super important. You could also do this super direct. The example I used to use, and the reason I'm not doing the slides anymore is because they're super outdated. But back in the day, ChatGPT, I don't know how long you guys have been in the space, but when ChatGPT first dropped, it was nuts. It was like every thread. 99% of people don't know how to use ChatGPT, but I do. And then you just give like ChatGPT methods. So that was like a big one, right? Is all the AI threads. I was doing AI threads. I was doing ChatGPT videos. I was doing I don't know if any OGs are here, but like they used to do the pictures that were generated. Like I asked AI to generate me like 15 versions of Spider-Man. It was like Samurai Spider-Man, and like it's just like instant viral cash money, right? So trending is super important, and I find that the best creators know how to use trending topics. You're even seeing people like Cody Sanchez get political on her page, and that's not a coincidence. It's not her just trying to like be a political figure. It's she knows. This is how you stay relevant. So trending super important. And the last one, this is really what makes you a personal brand, is your opinions. So opinions super important, whether it's for you, it's a client, whatever. You want to make sure you're saying things that you actually believe, but this is what's going to draw a line in the sand for your personal brand. And it's going to basically do one of two things for the audience. They're going to come, they're going to see your opinion on the timeline. They're going to be like, okay, I either agree, I'm going to join this guy's tribe, I'm going to follow, I'm going to hoorah, pat on the back, maybe I'll even buy from him, or I'm going to disagree and I'm going to comment, I'm going to engage, I'm going to argue in his comment section. And now you just got engagement. So opinions are really, really, really strong, especially if you already have an existing audience. For the smaller guys, not as important unless you have like a super engaged audience, but for the big people, opinions are super helpful. And if you can weave those opinions into some of these other pillars for threads, they can be super strong. And what they'll do is within the threads, some of those tweets will start to pop off on their own within the thread. So if you weave those opinions into the threads, can be super important. And I'll just finish off the pesto pillars with this is that obviously not everything's gonna be super cut and dry. This is an expertise thread. This is a personal thread. Sometimes your personal and your expertise weave together. Sometimes you include social proof in a trending thread, etc. Right? Combine, compare and contrast, kind of make some stuff up. Some stuff doesn't quite fit into every pillar. Like what's a meme? I don't know. Meme could be trending. Meme could be expertise. Could be just a meme, right? There's different things that might not fit, but this has been the general framework that I've used for pretty much all viral threads ever written, and we've probably written thousands. But also just building a personal brand in general. If, for example, when I first started, I used to charge whatever. I used to charge 6K for 5K followers in was it 45 days? 6 weeks. I was like six
Okay.
weeks, 5K followers, and I was like, okay, I need to get them the followers. So I'm like, okay, I am naturally going to lean towards probably more trending because I'm going to
Mm,
get them followers. Now that was 2 years ago. Nowadays, um, I like to do a more balanced approach. I like to do basically 20% on each, and I think of them as like sliders. If you've ever played like NBA 2K, you have sliders. Basically all of them will start evenly. So if I'm doing 20
mm,
posts, there's four of each. And then what I'll do is I'll start to see, okay, what's performing? Do my personal do better? Do my expertise do better? Does my social proof do better? And then I'll slide the scale based on what's performing if I'm optimizing for growth. And if I'm optimizing for sales, I'm going to slide what's going to be converting. So for the most part, social proof is probably converting, expertise might be converting. So I'll basically reverse engineer the goal to the slider. So start if you're starting fresh, start with 1/5 of each and then slide up based on what's working slash what the goal is. That being
mm,
said, again, if I'm optimizing purely for growth, which there are circumstances where you might be optimizing for growth, if you get a client that's a media brand, if you're building a theme page, etc., right? You're building a Barstool Sports replica, you're building any of those kinds of accounts, meme pages, right? You need to start straight up trending hardcore.
mm.
So again, you want to optimize for the goal, and every goal is different. So I don't like to say like you have to do the pesto a certain way, because I totally have had clients come in. They're like, I just want a lot of followers, and they're like, I just want to talk about sports. I'm like, okay, then I'm just gonna do trending. So
Mm.
you need to reverse engineer the goal there.
Okay, sounds good. I want to go all in on trending though.
Rip it up. I had a question here in the chat. I'll read it from Wellington. For clients and personal brand, is it best overall if you can write one thread a day? What would you do in terms of distribution for, especially if they are at zero? Yeah, basically, so it just depends. I personally don't like doing a thread a day. I find it virtually impossible to do a thread a day and keep up the quality. I don't think it wouldn't work. I do think a thread a day would work because I did a thread a day in the past. We used to do a thread every single day and like one tweet, and that was basically our cadence. And then we dialed it back to like 3, 4 threads a week because we were just like, it's not possible to keep up the quality, especially the demands of the times. Like back then, you could write a shitty thread about any personal development framework. Now you have to do a bit more research. You might have to include like pictures and videos, etc. It's just not possible to do well researched 7 threads a week. So in terms of cadence, I would not do a thread a day, especially if you are trying to scale. But if you're just going to do your account and this is just for your personal brand, rip it up and try and go hard and do a thread a day. I'm big on just doing what you can actually succeed at. Um, in terms of distribution at zero, I've talked about this all the time, basically 0 to 1,000. If you're not going to do some sort of, if you don't have a big account that can retweet you, if you don't have big spaces that you can get on, if you can't run ads, if you can't do any of that, don't optimize for threads, optimize for replies, optimize for DMs, optimize for networking, etc. And then tweet less. And then as you grow, tweet more. That's going to be super important. That's how I started. I was big on the replying. I was in a Discord group. I was creating Telegram engagement groups, etc. Because just had to get scrappy. But yeah, I find one of those ads, spaces, retweets, what else? And DMs, honestly, will help you get more followers, especially at zero. Once you have like a couple hundred followers, you can start to see some more, assuming they're real engaged followers, you can start to, I've seen people go crazy viral, like even with a couple hundred followers, especially nowadays. Back in the day, not so much, but hope that answers your question. If you have a follow up, feel free to just unmute.
I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
Have you found like an optimal length for what a viral thread should be like? And like also a follow-up question is like a split between videos and image. Like what are your thoughts on them? I know like you guys use a lot of videos and images in your threads. But like is there a right number for it? Or like is there threads that
Yeah,
yeah.
there probably is, and like I'd love to spend the time to do some like Mr. Beast level reverse engineering and figure
Yeah.
out the exact number of videos. I haven't figured out the exact color wheel scale for what goes viral yet. Sorry, Mr. Beast. In terms of like total slides, like for us, just based on what our clients want, they're using our threads a lot for like Instagram and other platforms, so we
Mm,
have to keep them to a certain amount of slides, like
yeah.
10 to 12 slides. That being said, I don't think more than that is necessary for the most part, unless you're doing like a specific like mega thread.
Yeah.
I find that to do these like mega threads super longs, it has to be a very good reason to do it. Like anytime I see a mega thread that's viral, it's like because there's too much information. But I wouldn't
Yeah.
forcefully push it to be that big. I also wouldn't forcefully push it to be that short. I've never really see threads that are like 5 tweets go viral. Like it's very weird to see a really short thread because then the consumer's just like, okay, that's it. You know what I mean? You want to have that middle ground. So I find 10 to 12, 10 to 12 tweets is about right. But I wouldn't sit there and be like, how do I get to 12 or I need to get to 10? I just kind of naturally write it out and eventually you kind of build that muscle. And if you're doing listicles, it's easy because you
Yeah.
just pick the number. You know what I mean?
And when you look at the thread, like do you know that it's going to go viral? Like, what sort of metrics do you track? Like the
Yeah.
click-through rate, retention. I heard some
Yeah.
people track like the profile visit percentage as well.
I don't track any of that stuff, mostly because, and for those who don't know, the Birdhouse is very focused on sales. That's like kind of been our unique thing is that we help people make money.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of the consulting stuff on the sales stuff in the background. So what I'm really looking at is like how many new followers are we generating? How many calls are we booking? Those are like really the main metrics. But in terms of like, do I know something's gonna go viral? Absolutely. Like usually in the first hour, you're like, okay, this is about to go insane. Like if a thread has 1,000 likes in the first hour, I'm like, this is going crazy. Like it's gonna go. We usually play a game where like guessing what it's gonna hit, right? It's just gonna hit 15,000, 100,000, 70,000 likes. Um, that being said, in terms of like looking at the thread before it goes live, I feel like sometimes like you just know you're like that's a banger, but when you're generating dozens of threads a week, if not a day, sometimes you're just like, this could go viral, but it might not. So it's hard to say like everything you write's gonna be a banger. Sometimes things we write that are like horrible just go viral. And I'm like, okay. But for the most part, I'd say like after thousands, I'm like, okay, I know when something's gonna go viral, like either before it goes live or within the first 30 minutes.